Socialism is coming to New York City. Mondami is socialism on steroids, and it will overtake New York City if you don't vote for Pastor James Manning to be the next mayor of New York City. Join the Right In movement. Print my name, James Manning, on the ballot November 4th, 2025, to be the next mayor of New York City. I will bring a working class revolution and an economic revival to the blood veins of the people of New York City. Vote for me on the ballot. Write my name on the ballot to be the mayor, the next mayor, the magnificent mayor, the amazing mayor of New York City. Boom, shakalaka. You know, they got this guy Mondami, right? Everybody says he's leading in the polls, whatever that means. He knows he's a socialist. At least he's got Alexander Ocasio-Cortez anyway, behind him. She's pushing everybody as a socialist. You know, some of y'all who haven't been around for a while. Back in the 1960s, back in 1968, a group of young people, including myself, we wanted America's democracy to be reframed, rewritten, to give more attention to young people and what they are about. I was in my late 20s at the time. They had their early 20s, really, in 1968, and they had the Democratic Convention in Chicago. And I wasn't able to go to Chicago, but my friends, who we all wanted a more socialist government, we wanted America to reframe itself, to take away the restrictions against marijuana and other things. And Dr. Timothy Leary of the University of California at Berkeley, a profound professor, has stated that taking acid, LSD, was good for you to take a trip every now and then, mind-expanding drug. Here's this well-known professor telling us to take acids, and it ought to be legal. And so we were very socialist then. We were the hippies, you know, we believed in having free sex, free love. You go out Central Park, and one man's having sex with you, you have sex with it as well. I remember the first time we saw a pornographic movie, because we were socialists. We wanted America, we wanted the democracy to favor us and our young people idea. They even grew up a commune out in California, where everybody who lived in a commune out in San Francisco, Hayden, Ashbury Street, people had the VW Volkswagen, and we lived in a commune, lived in a house, nobody worked, everybody just mushed off of each other. We were socialists. We were socialists. And I include myself in that process. I was very much, I thought that was right. I thought the old people didn't know what the hell they were doing. I thought they needed to get out the way. I thought old people were a problem. I thought their ideas were a problem. We need change. We need new ideas, I thought. I remember the hippies, right? They were a funny group. Long hair and a whole bunch of other things that they did. But the socialist movement found its way onto the college campuses, like you've seen with Columbia University and Palestinian, the Jews. And so, because the movement was across all college campuses for the most part, young people were demanding a change in the curriculum, a change in what's being taught at these schools. And at Kent State, a little known school out in Ohio, and a protest arose, and the young people stormed the place. And they had sent the National Guard there to keep the order, and the National Guard had live ammunition. And they began to shoot into the crowd. Many of the students were injured, 4 of them died in the Kent State shooting. Look it up. I was ticked. And they want to stop our socialist movement. They want to stop our reform of the government. The old people just need to get out the way. They just need to get out the way. We young people know what's best for the world, we thought. The first time I ever participated in a march on Washington was the Kent State shooting. I got on a bus on Madison Avenue and got on that bus and drove down to Washington, D.C. to be a part of the first time I ever participated in a march against Washington was the Kent State shooting. I thought it was tragic that that happened to them, and I wanted to lend my voice to them. I was a socialist in that regard. down in Washington, Kent State shooting. I was. And so the funny thing is, a large number of people say these hippies who didn't want to build with their daddy's business, their daddy running the stock market, banks, didn't want to have anything to do with their daddies, living outside the home. But by the time they got 40, 45 years old, they took off those hippie outfits, put on a suit and tie, and went to work for daddy and began to get all that money. But the other thing was that, I thought was interesting is that the socialist movement back in the 60s and 70s was so, if you will, intense, like nothing like it is today, that women in the socialist movement said, we're going to stop wearing bras. Yeah. There was a woman named Gloria Steinem. She had a friend named Betty Friedan. They started a movement, burn your bras. So all the women took off their bras, brought them to a place, and they set a match to the bra. Bennett was in the crowd. She was burning the bra. I'm simply trying to say to y'all, you think you know, so you know a damn thing about nothing, talking about Zoran Mondani and talking about socialist movement. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's not even fleeting what you're talking about. It's pointless. It is stupid. It's going nowhere. Talking about socialism. And you've never been anywhere. In fact, don't roll up on me, because I've been there. Listen, I've forgotten more about life than you will ever remember were you to live 100 years. You can't touch what I know or what I've done. Mondami, lost your mind. Free bus rides. That's what we were saying. We said that before. Free train rides, we said. Free everything. There was a great song during that time by Gil Scott-Heron who said the revolution will not be. I saw this movement some time ago. I'm telling you why I'm running for mayor. Is that right? Y'all remember? Y'all remember the movement, defund the police? We had something a whole lot better. We used to call the police pigs. So we'd be walking down the street, right? Police on the corner, we say, I smell bacon. I know you don't know nothing about nothing. Gil Scott-Heron song, the revolution will not be recognized. Televised, yeah, I'm sorry. Y'all, I got some old people in here. Gotta watch out for y'all. They call Dr. King a communist too, you know that, right? Because a large part of his idea, Dr. Joseph Harrison Jackson, the president of the National Baptist Convention, 30,000 churches, and I don't know, some 30,000 members, 33 million members, never joined Dr. King. Dr. King's father, who was the pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church, never joined a march with his son because he thought what he was doing was socialist, was fueled by communists. So he never once, his mother and father, all the marches he had, you've never seen them in a march because he disapproved of what his son was doing. Pastor Stanley, who gave me this church, disapproved of what Dr. King was doing. Now, obviously, a lot of the socialist white people took Dr. King under their wings, the New York Times and others, and began to promote him and make him this great big star. But black people didn't go along with him during those years. Now, y'all don't know that because some of y'all do, but they didn't. He was not supported by black folk because of his partial communist and socialist ideas. I think that it was Vladimir Lenin who founded, upon the deaths of 20 million Russians, and you talk about Mondami, your dumb selves. Vladimir Lenin killed 20 million Russians to stamp out Christianity in Russia, to stamp out Peter the Great's great accomplishments, the great churches, and the family that had been so powerful and prominent. 20 million Russians were killed by Vladimir Lenin, who stated in his manifesto that communism would encircle the earth, that every nation would one day be communist. And some people in Russia still believe that. Vladimir Putin still believes it. that every nation on the planet will one day submit themselves to communism or socialism. And y'all are talking about making a socialist mayor of the city of New York. It is absolutely incredible. And you have to realize why I don't scream when I hear this madness coming from people on television, news anchors, a bunch of others, pollsters and young people. He's our way to a better journey.
Hey, Mondami, what's my name? What's my name? What's my name?
James Manning.
When you go into that voting booth on the 4th of November, here in the New York City mayoral election, and when you go in there, whose name you going to print in the write-in section? Whose name you going to print in the write-in section on the ballot, Mondami? Who you going to print? Whose name?
James Manning.
Hey, Mondami, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Whose name you going to print on the write-in section on the ballot on November 4th here in the New York City mayoral election?
James Manning.
All right now, let's get it on.